And he was saying in this press conference numerous times that we are in a budget crisis right now in New York City. Is that true, A? And B, from your perspective, he was putting the blame squarely on the former mayor, Eric Adams. Also, he sprinkled a little blame on former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Do you think that's where the blame lies?
So I think that the blame lies with those who supported the policies that put us here. And that's not just the former mayor. That's also the people who supported the way Mayor Adams handled the migrant crisis, right? The revenue projections have gotten better, so the deficits projected have decreased. But originally we were talking about, according to Mayor Zamandani, a $12 billion deficit between the remainder of this fiscal year and the coming fiscal year. That's how much we spent on the migrant crisis. So he's going to criticize Mayor Adams today, but meanwhile, he was cheerleading him to spend more and more on the migrant crisis over the course of that administration. So he bears responsibility for this, along with a host of other Democratic leaders in our city, and along with Mayor Adams, for the state of our city's finances today. It's nice to pass the buck, but he's the guy in charge now. The buck stops with him. And the reality is that we need to engage in some real belt tightening here if we're going to make ends meet. But the question to whether or not there's a budget crisis now, there's not as much of a budget crisis as he would have you believe. He just wants to continue to add and add to the expenditure side and then make up for it on the revenue side with new taxes. So if we're modest about our ambitions for what government can do, there's no real budget crisis.
Let's say instead of sitting across from me, you had a one-on-one with the mayor right now, and you were giving him a host of places. Here's where you can tighten the belt. Here's where you can save. Where exactly would those places be?
So I think, a couple of things. Our speaker has talked about, Speaker Julie Menon, has talked about, decreasing the costs that the city pays for healthcare. We have a commitment to our municipal retirees to make sure that they have premium free healthcare, but that doesn't mean on the business side that we can't force hospitals and other people who provide healthcare to the city to reduce their costs. We have significant leveraging power in those negotiations, and we could save billions of dollars there. I think that the hiring freeze practice that Mayor Adams talked about is one that we should restore, because that's really going to slow the growth of the budget. And there's just, we could literally cut the fat off countless programs across municipal agencies without diminishing real services. There's literally billions of dollars left on the table a year.
I've lived in New York City now for a decade, and I'm lucky that I've spoken to New Yorkers from all walks of life about the affordability problem in the city, as well as most recently, this budget proposal. And when I speak to renters, they're saying, you know what, when I hear property taxes are going to go up by 9.5%, I'm thinking, is that cost going to be passed on to me? Is my rent going to increase? It probably will. Then if you're speaking to people who are high earners here, they're one of the 33,000 people who are making over $1 million. They're thinking, am I going to be hit with that tax? If so, if that's the option that the city and state go with, why would I stay in New York? Because of COVID, I have the option now, perhaps, to remote work. I can go to a more tax-friendly state, perhaps Florida, and work from there and then save on taxes that way. Then the city loses those tax revenue streams that way. Then if I'm thinking, and I'm not, but let's say someone is thinking, hey, I want to start a business in New York City right now. Why would I bring my business here when there's a potential, if it's very successful, if it's a very high earning business, it could get taxed? Why wouldn't I take that to a state, once again, a more tax friendly state? Do you think those are valid concerns, A, and B, how do you address them?
Absolutely. So the property tax increases aren't just limited to residential property owners, it's commercial properties too. And most commercial property tenants in this city have what's called a triple net lease with their landlord, which basically means the property tax bill gets passed on to them in the form of their rent or their lease payments. So you have small mom and pop businesses across the city who are going to be paying more. You have large corporate entities like large supermarket chains, right, who are going to pass on those costs to their consumer in the form of food prices, right? And we all know how expensive our groceries are even today. And you have the highest combined tax rate paid in the nation by New Yorkers generally. So it starts to sort of really, press upon people. What is the virtue of me staying here when I get so little for paying so much. And I think residential property renters and leaseholders are going to also see increases in their leases and rents because ultimately the property owners want to make a bottom line. They're trying to reinvest in their buildings. And when, they're not able to keep as much in their rent payments because of the tax bill at the end of every quarter, at the end of every year, that they're going to seek to make up that money elsewhere. So this isn't going to just fall on the richest among us. And even the non-property tax levy that he's talking about getting Albany to tax the rich more with, they have an option that a lot of us middle and working class New Yorkers don't have. They can leave, right? And they can leave without leaving the state. They can go to Long Island, they can go to the Hudson Valley, they could even go to Jersey, depending on the case. So, like, the people he's going to seek to tax, they don't need to live here. They have other places where they can claim residency, and we're not going to capture those funds that he thinks we're going to get.